Hey folks, Jeff Little with Torqeedo, and I'd like to go over some of the functions of the new mount that we've been developing. Obviously, one of our goals, or two of our goals, is to get maximum speed and range, but one other that I really like is pretty important to getting to and from the water. So I don't like to waste a lot of time, putting in and taking out, because that's time that could be spent fishing. And as you can see here, we have the Torqeedo Ultralight 403 with the new prototype mount, and it's in the stow position. So I've driven to the lake with it in this position and it's been secure. Let's take a closer look at the different moving parts of the stow function. So during transport, I've left the steering cables on the steering triangle connected. I've left the lift line connected, and also the reverse lock connected. When I put it in the water, I just take that bungee off, slide it down, and I have a quick release here on the steering triangle that slides it up into position. And then I'm ready to go. It's that simple. And simple is good, because time wasted at the access is time that you're not fishing. So wind-blown points are certainly a productive target, and unfortunately I have the wind pushing me into this one underneath this bridge here. That's where the reverse function comes in really handy. Now normally, without any reverse lock, what will happen when you go into reverse is that the motor is going to kick up out of the water. The reverse lock I've set up here, I have on a cable, and I pull it forward, and I've hooked it onto something here, a little cleat, and then I can kind of ease into it, and instead of being blown into this spot, I can stay back from it, just so I can get a nice cast in there and not worry about crowding the spot. One nice thing about this function is you can continue to steer just as you normally would. So clearly, with any motor, the most basic function is the ability for it to kick up when it hits things. And this motor mount certainly has that, but it has a lot of surface area here. This really speaks to the design in terms of its durability and ability to take a hit at any angle and bring it up without shifting or really torquing anything related to this pivot point. So very nice functional pivot point. The motor lift function is important anytime you come shallow and you'd like to lift your motor up. Even if you come into some vegetation, you want to paddle through it, you can lift that right up, and then when you're back in deeper water, drop it right back down. It goes where it needs to go. That's actually not a whole lot of force I was applying up in the seated position, just because the length of this particular motor lift bar. It's tall enough that it does not interfere with your cable as it comes out of the top of the shaft, and you have adjustability in terms of its, in terms of where it is on the pipe. I like to have it as far up as possible. That just makes it a really easy tug to lift that up out of the water. We're going to go back to looking at the reverse lock. This is the reverse lock line, and what you can't really see, let me see if we can get the angle right. On the inside, when you pull this forward, that little lever comes down and locks onto this bar. This bar has a couple different functions. One is for the reverse lock, so it can't pop out of the water and you can use reverse. But also, if you look here, there are 4 different trim positions here. This is the one that I really prefer for this particular boat, is a Wilderness Systems Attack 120. But as you move further back, you'll be able to handle a little bit more power. The idea is that you get the angle of the motor back just a hair more than straight up and down from whatever position you've mounted it on. I also want us to take a closer look at the steering triangle. This one's much more durable, but it also gives the feature of a variable sensitivity as far as the steering. What I've done here by moving it in, What that means is the distance that my foot pegs or whatever I'm steering with up front, the travel distance is less for the same amount of rotation. Whereas if you have a, if you really want to get the maximum in power and not have that much force applied by your feet, you're going to want to go all the way out. So you can play around with these with the new steering triangle and figure out which level of steering sensitivity is right for you and your particular foot control steering setup that you're using. I'm going to go ahead and leave mine at the second one in from the outside. So let's get it out there and give it a whirl, see what we have in terms of turning radius with the new steering triangle. At the end of your day of fishing, when it's time to transport, get your stuff up there, you really have two options. Two ways you can go. And I'm gonna sort of preview a couple of them before I drag it up. You can already see the motor's kicked up here. And like what I talked about before, you have this quick release that slides the steering triangle down and you can go right into the stow function. I'm going to use that stow function just for the trip up to the truck, and then I'm going to show you the second way that you can really transport the motor. Now, a lot of times that's it. I will strap it up and drive with it just like this. I got no issue doing that. However, if you're stopping somewhere overnight, you're at a tournament and you're fishing and you're staying somewhere, staying at a hotel, leaving this out, I always lock up my kayak with cables, but if you want to, for security's sake, let me just show you how you can take this off real easy. So if you're not going to stow it and you do want to remove it, you want to take off the motor lift line, you want to take off the reverse lock line, and you'll also want to take off the steering triangle where that connects. The last thing you need to do is that right there. You do that and the whole thing comes out, goes right in the truck, safe and secure.